I want to begin tonight's presentation with a general thank you to the community. Now, it's a pretty significant thank you, and not because I just discovered thankfulness for this community. It's significant because it's based on the very principles that inspired the question community in the first place. So thank you for challenging me this past month and reminding me of why we believe we should be here. Now, without sharing the whole manifesto, and there is a manifesto for sure that launched our journey close to 2 years ago now, I'll just share 3 words taken right from our website. These 3 words express how some of you challenged me during the holidays, and then how others motivated me to emerge afterward, a more enlightened and determined questioner. Now, the 3 words are cynicism, provocation, and illumination. Now, after our last presentation, Do We Have a Compass?, which was kind of epic, and by some reports way too long, there was a reaction. Now, first, I had an inner reaction that caused me to think, at a minimum, what just happened? And at a maximum, why are we even doing this? Then there was an outer reaction from community members, starting with, well, cynicism. The details of the cynicism would be a great discussion for another time, but for tonight, let's just say that I was provoked into cynicism myself, and then provoked to ask yet again, why are we even doing this? Now, this was my inner reaction to that question, speaking those 3 words in 3-word answers. Why are we even doing this? Well, my reaction was to be cynics, to be provocateurs, to be illuminators. Now, really, I thought, can we really be all of those things? So your cynicism about the presentation started it all. Then I was provoked into the deeper question of purpose beyond the presentation. And then, as others shared their provocations with me, quite unexpectedly, I was shocked into, well, illumination. Not once, but twice, I learned of your provocations, more or less stated like something like this. You know, Fred, since the last gathering, I have not been able to stop thinking about my compass. Cynicism, provocation, illumination, they all live here together because they must live together like some kind of dysfunctional philosophical family. Now, all of us can certainly relate to family dysfunction. Okay? It's one of the ways that we know that our own family is not populated by cardboard cutouts, but by real people. In the same way, you all help me to realize that without cynicism, provocation, and illumination, all dysfunctioning together, we run the risk of settling for cardboard cutout answers instead of real questions that could actually change our lives. Now, you all know by now that I generally open our gathering with the phrase, we have an intention to disrupt. Well, I want to thank this dysfunctional family for intentionally disrupting me and resetting my compass. You all know who you are who did this. Now, after last month's presentation, some of you may or may not have started exploring the question of your own compass. I imagine that some of you may still be questioning whether our alleged compass is anything more than just another lazy metaphor for common sense or uncommon intuition. I also know, because you've told me, that some of you have already gone beyond this metaphor. Like I said, it's important that we all dysfunction together in order to ask the best questions that could actually change our lives. So for that reason, we're not quite finished with the compass question. And I hope to encourage even more dysfunction tonight. So I began last month with an introduction to the actual compass. It's a simple, ancient device made of natural magnetic material mounted in free suspension to interact with the awesome power of the Earth's electromagnetic field. Now, whether it's a 4th century Chinese lodestone compass or a modern-day magnetometer, the principles of the compass are universal, they're enduring, and surprisingly, they're deeply philosophical. Now, the compass represents, to us, the essential power of electromagnetism, the ability to navigate through the unknown, and our confidence in the existence of true north. I then moved from the actual compass to describing how our society has attempted to articulate the human compass, if there is one. Remember these from last month? Personal compass is a blueprint or a mission that can be engineered or created by us based on what we want or where we want to go. The moral compass, everyone's familiar with this one, is one's ability or natural feeling to judge right and wrong and act accordingly based on morals and virtues. Now, those morals and virtues can be ours or they can be somebody else's. The inner compass, well, the inner compass, it's our gut, it's our intuition, it's our inner knowing, it's our instinct, it's feelings, it's heart, it's conscience, it's God, or it's not any of these, or any definition of ourselves. One inner compass guru put it this way: you are just a mirror for the unfolding manifestation of life that has very little, if anything, to do with you. You're just a mirror. So my hope for last month was to encourage you to explore the possible existence of your own compass. Now, what actually happened was the inspiring dysfunction that I described earlier. I was inspired to explore this question in a completely different way, to which I will attach the very same hope. So how about it? Have you ever created a personal compass or a personal mission for yourself? Anyone? Are you following or struggling with a moral compass that's been created for you? Have you identified your gut, your feelings, your conscience, your heart, your God, anything else or nothing at all as your inner compass? Or do you still think that your compass is only another lame excuse for wishing you knew what to do or where to go in your life? Now, regardless of which compass which compass group you think you're in, including the compass deniers, if there are some, I want to drop this new, more down-to-earth question on you. Did you know that there's evidence, well-accepted scientific evidence, that numerous species of animals have an actual biological compass built into their bodies? Now, everyone has heard of the miraculous navigational skills of homing pigeons and migratory salmon, sea turtles, dolphins, honeybees, monarch butterflies, and many other animals. We've also heard stories of missing family pets. I don't know if Charlie's ever done this, but miraculously returning to their homes from many miles away, sometimes after weeks or even months. Even much simpler creatures like fruit flies and worms, termites, and even some types of bacteria have been proven to possess remarkable geonavigation and orientation abilities. Scientists have studied these animals for decades, learning how such impressive navigational feats are possible. Hard scientific research has concluded that these amazing examples of living compasses are a result of various naturally occurring abilities, like these. Some animals practice solar positioning. They have both active and genetic memories. So, for example, for landmarks, for smells, for noises, and colors. Some sea creatures practice hydrodynamic reception, specific sensitivity to different types of underwater waves. A lot of animals have multi-dimensional vision, okay, both in acuity and analysis. Some animals measure time and distance and can easily measure time and distance using their abilities. Now, there are some animals that utilize a single navigational tool, and still others are able to combine and synergize multiple tools. For example, each year, the famous monarch butterfly migrates over 3,000 miles from Canada and the northern US to Florida and Mexico for the winter, and then returns north for the spring and summer, covering another 3,000 miles. Now, this remarkable species accomplishes the long journey through the use of two coordinated biocontrol mechanisms. One mechanism is based on timekeeping clock neurons in their antenna. The other mechanism is a set of azimuth neurons in their eyes. Now, azimuth is a navigational term for the position of a point in the sky relative to magnetic north. In the monarch butterfly, these azimuth neurons in their eye monitors the position of the sun. The ongoing coordination of antenna-based flight timing and visually based solar positioning keeps the butterfly's epic course inerrant. It's pretty amazing. Okay, solar positioning, genetic memory, hydrodynamics, visual intelligence, neural timekeeping. All of these are living examples of compass in the animal kingdom. Now, I did save one last example of compass, one last natural tool, which might point our discussion further along the path, our own path to truth. One remarkable common denominator shared by many of the world's most remarkable animal navigators is the discovery of biogenic magnetite deposits in their anatomy. Biogenic means biologically produced. Okay? Now, you might remember that lodestone, which is a form of magnetite, was the key component of the ancient compass because of its inherent electromagnetic properties. Magnetite ore was long thought to be an exclusively geological phenomenon, produced in the heat and the pressure of the Earth. But in the 1990s, scientists were able to detect trace elements of biogenic magnetite in a diverse group of living organisms, ranging from simple bacteria to insects to fish to amphibians to birds to mammals. The presence of magnetite, now a known biological phenomenon, has supported other important research into animal navigation. It's now confirmed that biogenic magnetite enables animals to interact with the Earth's magnetic field, just like a compass. The same science that detected biogenic magnetite in navigating animals has also been detected in the human brain and other structures, including our nasal ethmoid bone. It's right here. The ethmoid bone structure has corollaries in migratory birds, their beaks, fish, their snouts, and numerous other mammals. Okay? It's now well known that these magnetite-infused noses are the medium for these animals' interaction with the Earth's magnetic field. Now, did any of you know that we humans share this primordial compass with homing pigeons and dolphins? And do any of you wonder why we have additional deposits of magnetite in our brains? Okay, I hope to encourage you to wonder about this. In 1982, Dr. Robin Baker of the University of Manchester conducted a disruptive experiment on human sensitivity to the Earth's magnetic field. He took a busload of blindfolded students on a long, circuitous journey through the English countryside. After a time, he allowed the students to exit the bus, still blindfolded. Okay? He asked the group to make their best guess for the direction of the university campus and point their fingers in that direction. Surprisingly, a significant number of the students pointed in the correct direction. Now, he replicated this experiment the very next day with the same students, only this time he secretly inserted small magnets into their blindfolds. And again, surprisingly, there was a significant reduction in the number of students who pointed in the correct direction. This kind of magnetic interference often happens to migrating birds flying near high-tension power lines or microwave towers. They lose their way. Okay, in 1952, the 500-foot tanker SS Pendleton was caught in a severe winter storm 20 miles off the coast of Massachusetts. Now, in 100-mile-an-hour winds and 60-foot waves, the tanker actually broke in half. It's apparently due to a bad weld, but it was like a 500-foot tanker, busted in half. The bow section was completely disabled and expected to sink, but the stern section, which is in the middle there, which contained the engine and the rudder, remained afloat, thanks to a combination of courage and invention by the surviving crew. They were able to send out a distress signal with their approximate position, and the Coast Guard station at Chatham, Massachusetts sent out a 36-foot wooden rescue boat with a crew of 4 volunteers to attempt a location and a rescue. On the way out to sea, one of those 60-foot waves crashed down on the rescue boat, destroying the ship's compass. Now, rather than turn back, the Coast Guard leader, there he is right there, boatswain's mate Bernie Weber, decided to carry on the search in pitch dark and blizzard conditions, equipped only with a searchlight. Weber not only found the Pendleton without a compass, he and his crew saved 32 Pendleton seamen and then successfully navigated back to Chatham Harbor. By the way, this rescue is dramatized in a movie called The Finest Hours. I watched it on Netflix the other day. It's actually a pretty good movie. This guy, Bernie Weber, is played by Chris Pine, so it doesn't quite look like him. But so, science can now argue that, like other members of the animal kingdom, we possess an actual magnetic compass in our bodies. Experience tells us that we might even know people like Bernie Weber, who have an uncanny sense of direction in unknown territory or even in the dark. I don't know if you know anybody. I know a couple of people that seem to kind of know where they are. They never seem to get lost, either in the city or in the forest or whatever. Now we know why. Science and history intrigue us with remarkable stories of this kind of human compass. But is the human compass just physical? Are we merely physical navigators like our animal relatives? Is our compass just meant to guide us geographically? Or does the fact of our unique humanity cause you to wonder if our compass could guide us beyond mere geography? What about a metaphysical compass? We are, in fact, unique from any other living creature on the earth. And what makes us unique is our dramatically evolved advanced neural system. Our brain has the combined neural building blocks of the entire animal kingdom. Okay? The reptilian brain drives our instincts. The mammalian or limbic brain drives our emotions. The advanced neocortex, which is only possessed by higher thinking species, drives our intellect. But we have another neural building block that separates us from the pack, from the herd, from the swarm, from the school or the flock. We have the most advanced prefrontal cortex component in our brain. The prefrontal cortex is the engine of our creativity and imagination. It is the cauldron of our philosophical and scientific insight. The prefrontal cortex drives our ability to see beyond our circumstances, and more importantly, to have a vision beyond ourselves. Now, in the second presentation of the question, in October 2015, that's right, 2015, I introduced the concept of the cognitive neural heart and the powerful electromagnetic field that radiates from the heart. Now, the 3.6 billion neural cells that comprise 60% of the heart's cellular structure. I don't know if some of you weren't here, so maybe you didn't know that 60% of our heart's cellular structure is actually neural cells, not muscle cells. Okay? They're hard connected to the 100 billion neural cells in our brain. Now, this hard connection of heart and brain includes the 8 billion neural cells of our prefrontal cortex, creating a kind of neural port or gateway to our heart's EM field. It's sort of an artist's rendering of what our EM field looks like. Now, the heart's EM field emanates from us by current scientific measurement in a three-dimensional spin or torus motion to a radius of at least 40 feet in all directions and angles. So we're all kind of standing or sitting in each other's EM fields right now. And this is measurable. Now, this measurement is based on conventional electromagnetic instruments and doesn't account for any subatomic or quantum-based measurement of the same EM activity. Not yet, anyway. Now, it could be coincidental, possibly synchronistic, but definitely provocative that our heart's EM torus has a similar form and motion to a space-time wormhole, which is an important and now observable phenomenon of quantum-based astrophysics. Okay? This is like a static graphic of a space-time wormhole. This is an animation of how a torus works. And this is the motion that they have observed with black holes, singularities, and wormholes. We also discussed astrophysics and quantum-based astrophysics in January here, last year. So I want you to consider these questions. If we have biogenic magnetite in our beaks and our brains, a trait we share with multiple species of animals, do we also have our own biological compass? If our biological compass gives us the capacity to interact with the Earth's known electromagnetic field, what additional capacity is possible when our neural compass is hard connected to a personal EM gateway that resembles a space-time wormhole? If our biological compass was designed to help us navigate to a physical destination, is it possible that our enhanced neural compass can help us navigate to a metaphysical destination? Just asking. Now, the most amazing stories of navigation, animal or human, are defined by the notion that the navigator is enabled, or perhaps empowered might be a better description, to find a path through an unknown, uncharted, even hostile geography to a faraway destination. If the geography is truly unknown and the destination truly too far away to see, the navigator must have a compass. And for the compass to function, it must be connected to and guided by the Earth's magnetic field in order to accurately point the navigator toward the true destination. Okay? It's the only way. The defining difference between the true explorer and the truly lost is a functioning compass, guided by the Earth. Now, this is navigation. True explorers don't simply wander, okay? They commit to a path. A compass empowers that commitment, and a compass illuminates that path. Now, the stories of the monarch butterfly and the Pendleton are stories of dangerous, unlikely navigation through an unknown, hostile reality. When viewed from our detached, sheltered, even privileged vantage point, reality can often seem powerfully intimidating or even disarmingly neutral to us. I recently read a book about World War I. Among other things, the book detailed the incredible disconnect between the generals in their headquarters and the soldiers on the battlefield. In one passage, a wounded, traumatized soldier shared a powerful dual image with the reader. He envisioned the generals looking at their maps of the battlefield, moving small markers representing military units around the map like so many tokens on some kind of board game. Then the soldier relived the devastating effect of machine guns, artillery, anti-personnel mines, and poison gas on the thousands of ordinary soldiers on both sides. Reality. Now, to the generals, the map view was their reality. It neatly and painlessly charted a nice, tidy path to their victory objective. To the soldiers on the battlefield, their reality was the carnage and danger right in front of them. Their reality didn't permit them to see the neat and painless path to victory. The soldier's reality overwhelmed the general's reality to the point where the issues of life and death became the soldier's only path. No one needed a map through this reality more than they. In war, no one needs a compass more than those on the battlefield. The Amazon River is one of the great natural wonders of the world. The Amazon is so gigantic, it's even easy to see it from space. The sheer vastness of this river would seem unmissable to anyone looking for it, okay? So whether you take a real flyover or a virtual flyover, the task of finding the river, following the river, and reaching its end would seem like a routine matter in the modern age. But on the ground, in the Amazon rainforest itself, finding the unmissable river looks like this. This is the view from the battlefield. Okay? This is where a compass is needed. Now, there is water in the Sahara, okay? The largest hot desert in the world. Now, this precious water bubbles up from deep underground springs at various locations in this most unhospitable of earthly places. This is the legendary desert oasis. The effect of this sudden paradise in all the dry desolation is often spectacular and, of course, life-giving. Now, we know where these oases are. They're dotted all over the Sahara, okay? And all have been mapped out, even by Google. It's fairly easy to assume that today, no one need die of thirst in the Sahara Desert. But many still do. Because on the ground, even if the next beautiful, life-giving oasis is just a few miles away on somebody's map, finding the oasis, actually finding it, looks like this. This is another view from the battlefield. This is where a compass is needed. Last month, I closed my presentation with the story of Oskar Schindler. He was an ambitious, unscrupulous opportunist who recognized the unearthly power of Nazism, supported it, and intentionally manipulated its power to profit for himself. At the beginning of World War II, Schindler was a Nazi intelligence agent. When the war began, he became an influential business leader as a Nazi Party member. When the Nazis began to implement their final solution for the Jews of Europe, Schindler persuaded condemned Jewish businessmen to lend him money to buy a factory that would supply goods to the German army. It's crazy. He knew it was a loan that likely he would never have to repay. Now, in a final character statement, he arranged for a captive Jewish labor force with a commandant of a nearby concentration camp. Through the course of the war, Oskar Schindler made himself a fortune by riding the dark wave of Nazism and exploiting the Jewish people. And they were destined for genocide at the hands of his master race. By all accounts, Schindler was living the reality of Nazi power and privilege. He was able to enrich himself by choosing the map view of Nazism. To Schindler, both the Nazis and the Jews were merely markers on his map to personal fortune. This map was his reality. This map was the neat, painless path to success. Schindler was a general, not a soldier, at least as far as people knew. By the end of the war, Schindler had 1,200 Jewish workers on his factory floor. And during the war years, hundreds of thousands of other Jews who lived right nearby him had been displaced and murdered. And millions more Jews had been murdered all over Europe. By some miracle or error of Nazi administration, Schindler's 1,200 Jewish workers were never included in any deportation list destined for the extermination camps. Even in the final months of the war, when the Nazis actually ramped up their murder machine to finish the job of racial purification, Schindler's 1,200 workers were overlooked. On the day following Germany's surrender, Schindler was making ready to run. He feared capture, you see, and prosecution as a war profiteer. Just before he left his factory, his 1,200 Jewish workers gathered around him to thank him for their lives. They presented Schindler with a ring made from gold teeth, voluntarily given by one of his grateful living workers. Okay. The ring was engraved with these words from the Hebrew Scriptures: "Whoever saves one life saves the world entire." These 1,200 Jewish workers that survived eventually told Schindler's true story. Now, remember what I said earlier about Schindler's compass? In the beginning, he was a general, placing markers on this map to advantage himself. Then, very soon after the war started, Oskar Schindler found himself on the battlefield. The path to his personal fortune that he had so carefully marked on his map now had to pass through this reality on the way. I think only then did he realize the need for his compass. History, science, and nature show us that even if a compass points out the true direction, It is the navigator that must find the path. On this battlefield, something happened to Schindler's compass to alter his carefully planned, self-interested destination. Okay, but here's the thing. He could have blindly followed his new compass heading like a migratory bird or a fish by simply changing direction. He could have openly resisted or even abandoned his old reality. Now, he could have bravely chosen to die resisting, as many do in war. He could have purchased an escape to avoid further risk to himself. Instead, he followed a complicated path that led him to being the only Nazi ever buried on Mount Zion in Jerusalem. Okay, this is my point. A direction is not a path. A compass can only point the way. A navigator must find the path. Oskar Schindler chose to navigate. He chose to navigate through an unknown hostile territory following his new compass while making it look as if he was still following his old compass. Now, this is a very complicated compass. It's complicated because real life is complicated. Schindler's compass guided him on a very, very complicated path. It turns out that Schindler employed twice as many workers as he actually needed. He found ways to employ small children and old people in order to keep whole families together. He made sure that his factory produced a certain percentage of goods for the army that were defective. Okay, but not a high enough percentage to raise Nazi suspicions to a danger point. Besides, he had a convenient excuse whenever he was questioned: inferior Jewish labor. The most amazing illustration of Oskar Schindler's compass correction was this. His original compass, with its simple path, had pointed the way to a personal fortune. His new compass, with its complicated path, pointed the way to personal bankruptcy. Through the course of the war, Schindler used his money to purchase expensive gifts, finance lavish parties, and bribe Nazi officials to keep his factory going, but to protect the lives of all of his Jewish workers. At the end, he spent all of his remaining money, all of it, on bribes to keep his workers off the final deportation lists. Oskar Schindler literally purchased each of the 1,200 Jewish lives that were saved. And on the last day, he was the one that was forced to flee for his life. A penniless war profiteer. How ironic is that? His compass had radically changed, pointing to a complicated, ironic destination, so different from his original plan, his original compass. What changed it? Now, our lives are unique from any other creature on Earth. Evidence would suggest that we've been given the same biological compass that guides other creatures through their landscape. But just as our lives are unique from theirs, our landscape is also unique. Our landscape is not just geographical or topographical. Our landscape is also social, political, economic, scientific, philosophical, and yes, spiritual. Unlike our animal relatives, navigating our landscape requires more than just a direction or a vector. Navigating our complicated landscape requires a path for which we need a complicated compass. It's not simply a biological compass. It may be another kind of compass that is uniquely ours. So I'll leave you, okay, with these questions about our unique compass. If a physical compass helps us navigate this reality, could a metaphysical compass help us navigate this reality? If this is the outside force that guides our physical compass, Could this be a glimpse of the outside force that guides our metaphysical compass? Our unique, complicated compass for our unique, complicated lives? So ask yourself, what guides your compass? That's it. Thanks for being so patient.